All right, Mr. Bill, you can take it away.
Okay. Again, my name is Bill Gimbel, and I've got a fair amount of experience in the gray hair to show for it on the RON platform. My background, I've been in the business 23 years. I'm a member of the United States Common Law Committee, where we draft statutes for each state, Secretary of State, to implement as their boilerplate law for RON transactions. I'm a consultant and speaker. I was at Las Vegas last 2 weeks ago, speaking at the NNA. And MISMA, which is the Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization, is that group that promulgates technology standards for the mortgage industry. And NAS, National Association of Secretaries of States, is those notary public administrators from each state that also then promulgate rules. Most recently just updated the UPERA, and actually I'll be there speaking in June in Baton Rouge if anyone's going to be there. PREA is a Property Recorders Industries Association, was active with them years ago when we were trying to get e-signatures and e-notarizations accepted, which they are now in about 82% of all the counties according to jurisdictions. And ESRA, the Electronic Signature and Records Act, we actually were involved in that in 2002 with President Clinton when they passed the e-signature act. Operationally, I did my first hybrid e-signature paper-based signing back in February of 2005, my first RON transaction in July of 2013, and have managed through my career over 5 million notarial events and actually personally conducted over 2,300. And we've converted some of the largest US corporations to e-signature RON, companies such as Amazon, Disney, the Department of Justice, 3 of the top 10 law firms in the United States. Our company actually is in 45 countries with over 2 million unique users, but that's enough about me. Let's get on to what is important to you guys, which is generally what's indeed important to me. A couple of assumptions here. And are we still hearing and seeing these slides well?
We are, and I just want to say one thing before you get going. Guys, this is probably one of the biggest experts we can have in the industry right now with us. Probably, you guys know how much I love the late Carol Ray, but I have to tell you, having Mr. Bill here tonight, please open your ears. Don't be washing dishes while you're doing this, because this is somebody that really knows what we're going through right now. So I just needed to interject that as well.
Well, thank you for that, Ronnie. Okay, a couple of assumptions. We're going to assume that you're in your business to build your own brand and develop your own clients. We're not talking about a platform where you sign in and just take and get paid a small amount of money for doing their transactions, but you want to build your brand, your image, and develop your own clients. And you want to cross market. You want to go into legal, into medical, into financial, construction, insurance, institutional, colleges. There's a tremendous amount of markets that you can go into that a fully flushed out platform will allow you to do. And of course, you need a good wholesale price with a good return on your investment. So you've got to know what it's going to cost you to contract these items, both on a monthly ongoing basis and transactionally. So you've got to know what your ROI is. I just spoke on that at the NNA, and we honestly, and 2 of the notaries were there, have notaries managing their own platforms, making $1,500 to $3,000 a week. They're seasoned notaries, been in the business 12, 13 years, but they really hit it hard and they use their RON platform to their best advantage. And of course, we want you to investigate your Secretary of State's rules with regards to remote online notarization. Maybe your state allows REN, which is remote ink notarization, such as Montana for wills, in-person electronic notarization, such as North Carolina, and hybrid notarizations across the market, where a portion of the signing is done on a computer and a portion done in paper. So I suggest you go to your Secretaries of State's statute, because that will contain more information than the actual rules promulgated under the manual. So go to your state statute as it relates to RON transactions and study that. Those are the basis of your tools, which will allow you to earn money in this market. Okay, step by step. go to your state Secretary of State and see if that platform that you're considering, or platforms, I suggest you investigate many, is approved by your Secretary of State. Now be careful about this. Many states will list, use a platform such as A, B, C, D, or E. The next sentence says, we do not endorse, authorize, or require registration of a specific platform. Some states do. Find out. And again, find out if your platform does e-signatures. Now, this is something that's really misunderstood, particularly in the notary world. E-signature platform allows you to just e-sign documents. I don't know if a number of you years ago maybe have been sent out on assignments where you're taking a notary application, or to you as a notary going out to take an application for a loan, to have borrower sign disclosures. It has nothing to do with your notarial act. Having a platform offers both, the full array of both, is going to allow you to offer services that platforms, that notaries that only do RONs can't. So it's going to round out your marketability. And again, find out if you can do IPENs, RIN, and hybrids. And a critical important for building your own brand business is you must white label, meaning the platform should have your name on it. All the communications should be in your name. You want to build your brand, not ABC RON platform, but your local brand. You want the platform to be turnkey, meaning it has all the features of identity verification, of recording, of a notary journal, so that you can be compliant and efficient in your activity and in your compliance efforts. And also, as I mentioned earlier, make sure the platform allows you to communicate from the platform to your client via email with your own email address, with your own brand, with your own verbiage. And I'll show you what I mean in that. And something I want to show you, because if you remember one thing, I want you to remember this. This is an example of our platform's invitation. This is the platform that will allow you to create your own invite. This would be your logo. And 3 steps are critical. I mean, if you don't remember anything, remember this. If you have a session with a client, you've developed a client, ABC Law Firm, and they give you, okay, Bob, I want you to sign Susie client. Here's her name, email address, phone number. Go ahead and set it up for me. And again, in that environment, you can charge whatever you want, as long as you don't identify the notarial act beyond that rate at which your Secretary of State allows for the completion of the notarial act itself. But the other aspects of this environment, you can charge what you want. So you want to make sure first that the user, your client or your client's client, can actually communicate with the platform. So you want to have them run a test. If there's a problem, have them get to you. You want to send them a video that says, this is what to expect when you go through the verification of identity and the credential analysis. And the last step would be the how to sign in and again, go through a quick ID verification. So you want to prepare your client's client or your signers or their signers, your client signers, so that they may have a successful event. If you just do this blind, you will be lucky if it works. RON requires a lot of practice. I don't care what platform you use, it requires a lot of practice. So keep this in mind, it's absolutely critical. Okay, moving on, we want to make sure that the screen share software that your platform uses is not disallowed by your Secretary of State. Many of the platforms, Zoom included, has been excluded specifically from various Secretaries of State's approval list. Make sure that's there. And also, this is a critical appointment and is often misunderstood. The journal and the recording is part of the journal. That is under your exclusive control. And what that means is some platforms will automatically send a link to your journal recording without your permission, right to whoever wants the document. So you could have the lender, the underwriter, the secondary market purchaser, MERS has got a copy of your journal without your permission. That's not good. So you want to make sure that the journal is under your exclusive control, not that you can't share that journal, but they must get your specific written permission to do so. So don't let them just link willy-nilly your journal elements to the document that could go anywhere. Another element is the platform ISO or SOC 2 approved. ISO 27001 and SOC 2 are 2 independent certifications that go into your organization and say, okay, do you meet CCPA, California Consumer Protection Act, which affects all states, security provisions? Do you meet European GDPRs for protection of data? Is your system as much as possible hack-proof? Do you do intrusion testing? Do you change your password every 90 days? There's literally an 8-page, 20 questions per page report that is filed on your company. And if you pass it, you get the SOC 2 or the ISO 2701 approval. And what that says, maybe not so much to you, but to your clients, it'll mean a lot. It means that this company's platform is certified and it's audited every 3 months for compliance. So if you're dealing with Mr. Big Law Firm or Amazon or the Department of Justice, they're going to want to make sure that your platform not only is compliant, but is routinely audited and guaranteed that they meet that compliance, and that compliance quarterly audit is then forwarded to your large customers. The other certifications, HIPAA, is for healthcare. If you want to market into the medical market, you're going to have to be HIPAA approved, your platform. That's going to be critically important. An example, Kaiser Hospitals in California. They now do, last month, I think it was 4,820 or 23 notarizations per month. And they can only do that if the platform's HIPAA approved. HIPAA, not HIPPO. That's a much bigger approval. Anyway, HIPAA, which is the medical approval, and MISMO, of course, which is mortgage. And your title and mortgage underwriters are going to demand that the platform be MISMO certified. The other general entry requirement is, does the platform require multi-factor authentication to gain access? Meaning, once you log in with your username and password, is a security code sent to you that you have then, that device that the code is sent to you is in your possession, which is something you have, that you can then enter that into the platform to gain access. That's going to be a question that any security person within an individual account is going to want to know. And not lastly, but very importantly, does your platform have e-learning videos, self-help guides, site guides, live webinars, and a help desk? That's critical. Some platforms will make this available to you without even being a member. And trust me, view as many videos as you can via YouTube or Vimeo. That's very important. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause, and if you can help me with this, I'm going to open up the floor to questions after the end of each of these 4 slides.
Well, Mr. Bill, I have the first question. You had mentioned something about, and I want to make sure I heard it right because I'm taking notes as well. Zoom. You said something about Zoom in your presentation, correct?
Yes.
I really want you to elaborate on this because this is actually, I have a personal story about a notary using Zoom and it failed after they failed on the platform. So can you elaborate on Zoom? Because I really want to make sure that the notaries here get on board with what you exactly said.
What the issue is, and it will apply to Zoom or any other platform, is you are required to either A, record the notarial event itself, which is what I recommend you do, and then stop recording, or you're required, as in Florida, everything from hello to goodbye. Now that capture of that event should be you, and it should be the signer or signers. You're going to ask them questions such as, do you understand the nature of the documents you're about to execute? Are you executing these documents of your own free will and volition? Elements that you're all familiar with, and that should do it. But if the software itself records the entire screen and there's a mortgage document on the screen, you're going to capture that entire document. And as you all know, there's probably no greater amount of personal information than is contained in a mortgage document. Bank accounts, credit cards, home addresses, previous addresses, dates of birth. So you want to make sure that that software is recording you and the signer and not capturing personal information. That can cause you a lot of problems. The other issue is the platform must be peer-to-peer, meaning that it's a direct, secure connection from you to the signer or you to the signers, and that it is hack-proof. It's operating in its own browser with its own browser security issues. And the further point, and that goes to my earlier reference, is I'm sure you may have been privy to the Zoom lawsuit. They got sued for $84 million. And what it was about essentially was a third party released information to another party without the permission of the entity that executed the recording. What does that sound like? That sounds like a loan document that was recorded by a notary that the title company then asked for, the notary or demanded they have without permission, and then shared it with a third party. So you got to be very careful about that. Make sure you're recording this session between you and the signer, not capturing personal data, and that the platform is secure from intrusion and interruption. And you're going to want to ask your platform provider, what network do they use? What protection provision do they use to ensure that it cannot be hacked in session?
Thank you, Mr. Bill. We're going to have hands going up, but before we start going to those hands, I want to say this, guys. My personal take on this, and this is not Mr. Bill's presentation, but I hope that he'll back me up on this. When you invest in a platform, that platform should work for you. And if it fails you, you should not seek alternative methods. The two instances where I've seen notaries commissions on the chopping block have involved them going off platform or using a secondary device to make the transaction happen, trying to be helpful. But when you invest in a platform, if that platform fails you, whether it be KBA, video, audio, or the combination of both, you should cease the transaction. You should rely on your platform. And if you have to wait another day and they have to close another day, close another day. Do not put your commission in front of anything when it comes to Ron, because we're dealing with a new animal now and we're still learning about it. The path of least resistance is to rely on your platform.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Ronnie. And that really goes to what I mentioned earlier. Make sure, that your customer or your customer's customer can communicate with you. Make sure they understand how to go through a KBA and CA. By sending the videos, this is an example. Prepare them, and you'll be much better off.
Not to put too much, but I did a Ron for a title company today, and I won't say names because this is being recorded. But the platform that we're required to use for that, the signer's ID could not be verified. We did it twice. The first time we did it, they uploaded the ID. It was crystal clear, but when they held it up to the camera, they had a bad webcams where I could not verify on screen side by side if those compared properly. So I did abort the transaction. I called support. The second time they uploaded it, it was a half cut ID, and then it was blurred so bad that I couldn't even read the half that they got uploaded. They said, well, our legal team says, and I said, well, I don't trust your legal team. I need to do this by the book, because if I get in trouble, I can't pay my bills. So they laughed a little bit and they understood, but I just want to let you know, I go through the same things that you guys are going to go through, but some of you out there will decide to listen. And Travis says it best. Every day, someone's going to ask you to compromise your integrity in this industry. And you have to be the one to say, hey, this is how it goes. We have a question for Amy Seitz. Miss Amy, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Oh, I will try to. Hi, Ronnie.
Hi there.
Oh my goodness. Hello, everyone. So I didn't necessarily have a question. I had a little bit of insight. Is that okay?
As long as it doesn't,
It's bearing on the Zoom. It's bearing on the Zoom aspect.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I think the idea behind it can't just be Zoom is the issue. A RON takes 4 components. There's ID validation, there's ID credential analysis, there's audio and visual, and then there's document encryption. Zoom can be part of it, but it isn't only it. So you can't just get on Zoom and do it. That's a big thing. That's been a big misunderstanding with the notaries through the United States. I think Bill would agree with me on that one. Yes. Is you've got to make sure that it is one of 4 components. There are multiple platforms that use Zoom, and that is legal. Yeah. They are doing it right. It's just, you can't just use Zoom. And I wanted to draw attention to that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel that that's actually really valid advice to inject into the conversation, actually, because, you know, I don't know about the 4 components. I'm learning as we go, just like everybody else here. But I feel that the two instances that I've seen where notaries were on the chopping block is that they aborted their platform and the 4 components and used just Zoom. And that's why I wanted to harp on that a little bit tonight. And I appreciate Amy injected in, and I appreciate Bill backing me up on that. Is you're going to hear things on Facebook University, and that's not where we learn. We learn from experts like Bill here and Miss Amy, who injected that important component as well.
Yeah, one question in the chat, Ronnie, it's from Misty Collins. She says, the document encryption is your IdenTrust digital certificate. Is that correct?
Yes and no. The IdenTrust X509, which I'll go over in a moment, personal certificate that vets to a certificate authority that's recognized by the federal government, is that trigger in that process that applies the tamper seal to the document itself. The encryption is an entirely different process that encrypts the document during transmission and at rest. It's a hash value that is validated at both sides and prevents someone from interrupting your signal. So you're right, yes, that does trigger an encryption, but the encryption we're speaking of with regards to an AV file or a data file is a different method of encryption, but they're both encryptions. Okay, let's go to the next component. Does the platform provide the option for a journal for storage? Does it provide backup at a different storage facility like AWS in California with a backup in AWS in New York or Florida? And does the platform allow you, and I strongly encourage you guys, go to Costco, spend the $69 to buy a 5 terabyte hard drive and store your journal on your hard drive yourself. Critical. Does the journal auto-populate during your entry process, or are you required to enter every item separately, possibly even after the event? If it can auto-populate, that saves you a lot of time and a lot of work. Will the platform, and this is going to be also litigiously very critical, will the platform store and make available that journal that they have an authorized copy of that you assign them as a conservator of your journal, allow you access after you've stopped being a notary? Let's say you're in Florida, we're required to store that for 10 years with a backup copy for 10 years. 2 years from now, you move and you decide to stop being a notary. Will that platform allow you access to your journal, even though you no longer subscribing monthly or paying your monthly dues or access charge to that platform? Critical. Does the platform provide its own competency and certification tests? Some states SOS require that, but I think it's both a very good tool for us as a platform provider when we refer clients and notaries, or rather clients to notaries, that they've passed a competency and certification test. So that lets the market know and lets the platform provider know that you've done your homework and you can get a certification from them that you can then post on your website. The other critical component operationally, what acts does the platform support? Does it support acknowledgements, jurat, witnesses, certified copy, credible witness, confirmation of life, depositions, invoice for debates? Does it support all the acts that you're going to be conducting in your state? Another critical, and this goes from every question element, are all ID valid variables presented on the platform? Personally known, knowledge-based authentication, credential analysis, biometric evaluation, credible witness. We just had a notary that called me today. Her husband is overseas and he's got a foreign passport. He doesn't have a KBA. Can he get this done? Yes, he can. But you have to be allowed in a state that allows for credible witness or biometric examination. So know what your state's provisions are and make sure that whatever platform you use, that they support all those variables. Otherwise, you're going to have to turn down client business, and that's never fun. So that begs the question, does the platform allow for international client use, meaning non-US citizens? Obviously, most all platforms, I would like to believe that they allow for US citizens that are traveling abroad or living abroad to do a knowledge-based authentication. That's easy. But the critical becomes foreign nationals and non-US citizens. So they must have the ability to verify non-US, or should have, and it will be to your advantage if they do, to verify non-US citizens' identities, both domestic and international. So with that, I'll take some more questions.
Mr. Bill, I actually have another question, and I hope Miss Amy will chime in on this one as well, because I know that she's been talking about biometrics lately. As notaries, well, coming from a signing agency standpoint, one thing that I've seen recently is that, and I know Amy's been talking about it a lot lately, and I would love for her to chime in on this. So notaries need to understand what biometrics is. It's a brand new term for us. That's the first thing.
Sure.
And the second part of that question would be, you said it best, is if it's legal. So we've had some instances, and not to put Amy on the spot, but I want to say this because I want to get it out. We've had several instances where notaries said, well, you can do this, but through biometrics, but it has to be approved in the state. And in the instance that where we're doing the transaction, the notary was not located in a biometric state, nor was title, nor was the signer. And we need some clarification on biometrics, actually.
Right.
What exactly is it? When does it come into play, and where can we use it? And I think that is probably the best questions to ask, the who, what, when, where, and why of biometrics.
Right.
If you could do that in a nutshell and help
Sure.
us with that conversation, because we're all learning here.
Okay, so first go to your Secretary of State's statute and see if biometric is a standalone ID validation process that they approve. What biometric is first they're going to do a credential analysis, and they're going to look at a government issued ID, and you're going to want to make sure that your provider has a lot. We've got over 4,000 from 200 countries, but you want to make sure that the ID that they're presenting has first been evaluated as being legitimate. Okay, then they're going to do what's called a liveness test, where they're going to require that the photo that's taken from the person that's comparing them is actually live, and it's not a picture of a picture. And third, then they're going to do a biometric scan from the selfie that the person takes after their ID credential has been validated, and they're going to compare the two. And let's say they match. The third level, this is really important. The third level is you, because I could, pass a biometric and put up my passport and pass it, and then just have my wife get in front of me and continue the rest of it. So the platform should display the ID that was valued as evaluated as genuine forensically, the picture that was compared to that ID that was validated, and you do a stare and compare between the ID, the picture, and the person that appears before you. That's biometric.
Okay. And then Miss Amy, do you have anything to chime in on this as well?
Oh, Ronnie and Bill, I'm going to say totally. You can never go totally artificial intelligence with biometrics. It can be fraudulent, but I will give you, I did an analysis, and I think this is what you're referring to. I did 7 fraudulent transactions with KBA. And out of those KBA, those knowledge-based authentications, 5 out of 7 people passed, and they were all fraud, every single one. But I did 7 fraudulent biometrics, and only 2 passed. It was my freaking daughter. She passed as me, and she passed as her sister. Okay, there's so much more security with biometrics. It's huge. There's only 5 states that can use this. That is Florida, Virginia, Louisiana, Montana, and Wyoming. They're the only states right now that can use biometric verification.
Miss
And it
Amy,
is
can you chat that to me when you're done? Because I want to make sure we take note of that.
I will definitely. Those are the only 5 states right now that can use biometrics, but biometrics is a much better verification process than the public records domain. Because I will tell you, as a Ron notary myself, the majority of my clients Google their own answers. How secure is that?
Yeah,
Bill,
and
have you heard that?
right.
I'm sure you've heard that, right, Bill?
Yes, and that was one of the problems with the statute. It was originally written in 2012 for Virginia. It had a KBA only, and honestly, I know all my wife's answers. We've been married 34 years. You know, I could go through a KBA with her, and depending upon how loose you set up those KBA questionnaires, how many disingenuous questions you have, such as you own one of the following Learjets or none of the above. You own one of the following 200-foot yachts or none of the above. That's statutorily legal to do for two, it's called disingenuous questions. So a KBA by itself is not, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion, is not a good parameter. KBA, CA, and understand that as a notary, you are really doing a biometric comparison when you go out in the field. You're taking a look at the driver's license, and you kind of maybe you bite it, you bend it, and it looks real. And you look at the person across the table, yep, it looks like this guy. So, you know, again, you've got to use your own judgment. Even with all this incredible technology, you as a notary has to use common sense. What's the nature of the document? Who's the beneficiary? Is this just a permission slip to go to a football camp? You can never surrender your authority, and never compromise your ID validations or your credibility. I mean, it started years ago, and a lot of you guys that have been in this business a long time remember in the late 90s, it was backdating all the title companies. Oh, I forgot this document. Can you backdate it? No, we can't. Well, you'll never work for us again. And I said, I couldn't agree with you more. But, you know, use your common sense. It's really up to you guys. I mean, at the bottom line is it's eventually you. And the other thing to remember is most RON statutes put the liability for compliance on you, the notary. Some do libel or co-libel the platform, but many, particularly on the original 13 states, it's up to the notary to confirm that that platform meets that state's criteria. Remember that. Okay, questions?
We'll just check the chat. Miss Beth, are there any questions from the chat that need to come up to the forefront?
No, nothing now.
Okay. let's
Mr.
move
Bill,
on.
I just want to say thank you for going in depth on both of your pauses there on those topics, because those are ones that I feel that we need to zero in on, and I appreciate you going in depth on those.
Thank you for that. It's important. It's a lot to learn, guys, and we're going to make available a checklist for you guys when this is done. So don't feel you got to remember all 35 of these items, because we're going to provide them for you. X509 digital cert, yours, which is preferred, or the platform. Some of the platforms out there will issue you your own X509 cert for free, as opposed to buying for $66 a cert from, let's say, DigiCert or a Dentrust. And first of all, what's an X509 digital cert? That is a cert that follows the Federal Bridge Act with regards to issuance of a signature authority that's issued by a certificate authority that's registered with the federal government. And you actually have to prove your own identity to that issuer, that you are you. And then they give you what's called a public and a private key that you can use to sign your documents, which will then encrypt the documents, which will then put a tamper seal over those documents, indicating now and 10 years from now if there's been any changes made to that document. So you want that certificate in your name. You apply directly. I was speaking and got a call from the Secretary of State, Notary Public Authority Administrator for Kentucky. On the 3rd, they sent out a notice to all their notaries that you can no longer use the server side cert. You must have your own. And you've got to get your own by the end of this month. I thought that was a rather short notice because I've been talking to them about it for 3 months. But anyway, your digital cert, pay the money, get it in your own name, and that way you can use it across multiple platforms. Okay, now the document, this is critical, the document that you practice with, and then when you're tired of practicing, practice some more. 2 computers, one you're the notary, one you're the signer. The resulting document electronically, when you download that and you open it up in Adobe Reader or any reader, Adobe Reader, PDF reader, when you click on your signature or you click on your seal, it should verify that document has not changed since it was notarized. It should let them know who the notary is, you, who holds that certificate, when that certificate was issued, when that certificate was is to expire. And does that link in its chain of security all the way to the certificate authority? It's kind of a lot to understand, but the takeaway here is get your own X509 cert that complies with Federal Bridge Act. Okay, now the platform operationally, when you're going through this, will it stop you if you miss a statutory step? If you forget to fill out a journal element, will it stop you from proceeding? Or will it, you have to enter something. Have you entered their address? Have you entered the fee amount? Have you entered the method in which the identity was confirmed? A good platform will do that automatically for you. Also, is the audit trail available for you to download and provide clients or your title company? And let me just briefly show you what that looks like here. It looks kind of like this. Okay, this is a practice signing I did with Joe Signer from Arizona. And this is what happened. Now, this is actually not the full audit trail because that's huge, but this lets you know who did what when. When I signed in, when they signed in, when they signed something, when I signed something, when they stamped something, when I stamped something. This is the audit trail.
Bill, are you showing us something different on your screen? Because we don't see that.
You don't see that. You are screen
Stop
sharing.
your share on this checklist and reshare what it was you're wanting to show.
Okay, stop share.
New share.
Share. Okay, do you see it now?
Got it.
Okay, this is what, thank you for bringing that to my attention. This is what an audit trail looks like. It's a document log. Who did what, when, at what time. It'll even include, it includes the IP address of each signer. So we know where that signer was. We know where the signer was. When they applied their signature, when they entered data elements. So it's an audit trail, and that should be made available to you. It's not necessary to share with anyone, but if your attorney firm or if your title company wants an audit trail, you've got it. So that should be made available to you. We go back to my, okay, are we back? Are we back on the 16 through 22 screen?
Nope, not yet. You got to unshare again.
Okay,
Unshare.
sorry. Thanks for the assistance. Okay, and I am here.
Perfect.
Sure. All right, thanks. Hey, it's great to have a coach. Back up. Okay. Now, another element is when this, you still don't?
No, I still see your audit trail.
Okay, stop that.
I see it. I see it, Bill. It might be Amy. She's on her cell phone. It might be just a delay, but I got you. Or I
I
had you.
can see it too. I do see the slides on there.
There you go. We got it.
Okay. Item number 20. The signature should be created either by selecting a font, by uploading an image of their actual signature, by drawing their name on a scratch pad, on a screen, or on a cell phone. And where this is critical, some documents require, as crazy as it sounds, that a signature be drawn. So to address all markets, particularly medical and some estate planning documents, it must be a representation of a hand-drawn signature. So don't lock yourself out of other markets. Make sure your platform provides all those options. And when you're doing large documents, you want to make sure your platform accepts at least 50 megabyte package, which is going to be 800-900 pages, which should be fine. But the auto advance feature is when a signer signs in and they go to sign documents, it automatically goes to the next document. The next signature would be that data entry or signature. So you have signer one, Bill. He goes click, 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 next through the whole doc set. He doesn't have to scroll and lift the screen up and down. It automatically advances to the next data point or signature point or initial point. And then signer two comes in and they go through the same process. That's going to make your world a lot better. Also, and this touches on a point we had earlier, the signer side transactions should be able to be executed across all mediums, cell phones, iPads, Androids, iOS, iPhones. Short story, we had a signing the other day. Well, it was actually last week. It was just before my NNA meeting. Husband and wife were to sign in the morning at 8 o'clock. He got called in early. She signed, And then she told the notary, well, let's call my husband at 2 o'clock. He's got a break in and he can finish this up. Okay, fine. Notary logs in at 2 o'clock. No husband, no husband, no husband. So she calls him because she has his phone number. And he says, I'm at the university and I can't log on. Well, of course he can't log on. The university is going to lock down their servers so they can't get AV transmissions. Anybody in a big company is not going to be able to get that signal. What do? Make sure your platform will allow you instantly to switch to another medium. In this case, he switched right away to a cell phone and completed the signing. So you want a platform that the architects, and this is my third platform that I'm an architect on, that the platform mimics those events that occur in your environment. Okay, one side shows up, they're not there. Bad, it's not the right acknowledgement. He's signing today, she's signing tomorrow. She's in Brazil, he's in Paris, and the other one's a witness is in Carolina. Can you do all that? So think back about those environments and situations you experienced, and is the platform capable of addressing those? Okay, questions?
You do not have any questions in the chat currently, but we do have a couple of hands raised. Dorada, if you want to unmute and ask your question, then go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I actually do have a question. You stated that you yourself have 3 platforms that you have been the architect of.
Correct.
That has multiple units that you can use, cell phone, computer, etc. What are the other 2?
SafeDocs and KYS. This is secured sign.
I see. Do you mind writing them on the chat, please?
They actually are outside the mortgage market. Yeah, I can send
Okay,
that. If they're outside the mortgage market, understand that in 2005, the Mortgage Bankers Association came to me and said, Bill, we need you to write a white paper. We need e-signature, e-notarization to be picked up in the mortgage industry. So I wrote this a large, expansive white paper called eMortgage ROI. It had an interactive Excel spreadsheet where you could put in your costs, your dwell time, travel time, print cost, labor cost, insurance cost. There's 32 steps in a mortgage transaction from LOS down to secondary mortgage delivery. That was written in 2005. It's been a few years. So when Ron came along, we thought, well, let's jump into the mortgage market. It just went right on its head. So those other platforms went out into the other markets, construction, legal, healthcare, and to obviously, so they stopped bleeding red ink. They had to develop other things. And the mortgage market now is just beginning to adopt it. Unfortunately, similar to what occurred in 2008, not as bad, certainly, but we're off 70% on mortgage originations. That's the bad news. The good news is there's like $1 trillion in home equity available for HELOCs. So you're going to start seeing a lot of those.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And then Amy, I'm going to skip you for just a minute and I'm going to go to Lisa real quick.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bill, you were talking about having your signer being able to just click through the documents and go from signature to signature. And that's really cool. But if they do that, how as a notary are you then, describing the document to them or letting them know what they're doing here?
You control that event. So you can pause them at any time in the process. Again, when they click on the document, you can pause them. You can introduce the document. Time to submit this as a notice of right to cancel. This allows you 3 days after execution of this document to cancel at any time without penalty. Release. Okay. Sign here. Click. It goes to the next document. You explain that. Release. They go to the next document. So you can control the document flow.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Where it's often used is in contracts for executives that their staff has completed the document, their attorneys reviewed the document, and they say, okay, Mr. Big Boss, just sign the son of a gun, it's good. And he just wants to get 15 minutes, click through, and I'm done and out of here. That's where that is often used. Okay, let's go to our next and final slide. 30 to 31.
One more question, Bill.
Yeah, sure.
Amy's been real patient. She's had her hand
No
back.
worries.
Go ahead.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you so much, Beth. I don't have a question. I just want a clarifying moment. states such as like Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Pennsylvania do not legally require you to purchase an IdenTrust or
Right.
digital certificate. It could be the platform that requires it. It is not necessarily legal that you have to require it. And I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that there is a difference in that aspect. That's all.
Yes. Many states do not require an X509. We will not allow you to participate on a platform without one. It's just a decision that we've made with regards to security, because otherwise what's going to occur when they click on that document, it's, let's say you're signing for Notarize or for Notary Can, and they click on that signing, on that notary signature, and it says this document is not changed, and we, Notarize, are saying that it hasn't. There's no association with you, the notary, and the application of that tamper seal. So you're absolutely right. Some states don't require an X509 federal bridge. We just think it's a better way to go. But you're absolutely right.
And
It
you
sounds to
had-
me that you're doing what we call it unlimited ink, or at Notary Starts, the path of least resistance, where if you can cover getting in trouble, why not cover it?
Exactly.
One more question from Mr. Travis, and then we'll let you get on with the rest of your slides, Bill. Sorry.
Sure.
Travis,
You're
you're on
muted,
mute.
Travis. There you
Maybe
go.
I'm jumping the gun on this, but I did want to jump in, and I'm Travis. I'm Ronnie's business partner. I more run the unlimited ink side, and we do get orders where we run into a foreign passport situation quite a bit, and typically with those, they need to have a credible witness, because the hard stop, right, is KBA. Because even if we get like a state that is allowed to notarize off of a foreign passport, they still can't go through KBA because they don't have that residence and credit history if they've never lived here. Like, what are your, do you have any knowledge, input, anything helpful to those situations and how to handle those? Because if I stand correct, I think Virginia is the only state that's allowed to notarize off of a foreign passport.
No, there's actually quite a few that do, but
Okay.
again, consult your state. But the issue is, the platform should allow all the ID variables that a state will allow. Credible witness is one. If there's one of those 5 states that allows biometric, that is one. You shouldn't be forced, and some of the platforms do, be forced to go through a KBA because that's what the platform wants you to do. I mean, that's just not providing your service and your talent into the market. I mean, if your Secretary of State allows you to do credible witness or biometric or personally known, why wouldn't you use that if you can and just completely bypass KBA?
Right. And there's been a couple instances where we've had, a platform that, will allow a credible witness, but it forces the notary to select a button, before they proceed, stating, I personally know this person, so we can't use those. And we've also had a couple of instances with KBA where title, their underwriting states, they must pass KBA or, we will not clear to close this file off of a RON. So
right, that's critical to understand your client's requirements, because I
Okay.
know a lot of title companies and a lot of municipal approval elements say that they must pass a KBA. That's between you and your client. I mean, you
Okay.
can't tell your client, well, I'm not going to run it, because your client is the title company or the attorney or the construction firm or the hospital or the university.
Mhm.
And that's who you owe your service to. Now you must bring in their client in a compliant fashion. And I would argue with them. I mean, not argue, but I would present my case. And if they say no, then I'm okay, that's fine. That's what you want. That's what you're going to get. But I would, and then this brings up another point, that will your platform allow your signer to go in early to do the KBA? On international, so we have signers that say, well, he's in China, he's in China, but he went to University of California, Berkeley, lived here for 5 years ago. And I think he could probably pass a KBA, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Here's the recommendation. Okay, the signing's 5 o'clock today. I want your signer to go in at 10 o'clock this morning and go through the KBA. If he
Okay.
passes, great, we're good. If he doesn't, call me. or you'll see it on your dashboard that he didn't pass. Then you can reconfigure, then you can execute your options.
Yeah, and that's usually, what we'll tell title as well, because I know a lot of times when KBA is ran, the notary is going to get charged whether they pass or fail. So we typically have to give that advisement, like, look, this guy or gal fails, got a bill for a print
You
and trick
bet.
fee to do this again. The credible witness may be the better option. And, obviously that presents its own challenges. You got somebody in the, China, Japan, wherever, now they're in a completely different time zone and they have to gather 1 or 2 credible witnesses, depending on what state we do the notary in and their requirements are with that. So, there's a lot to congregate, in that RON signing. And those are probably the most challenging ones when it comes to RON signings that I come across on a day-to-day basis.
Right, and that brings up another great point that many of our successful notaries employ. If your state allows your witness to be remote, hire professional witnesses. They can be other notary friends of yours. You pay them a fee for being a witness, but they're going to operate. They can go through the KBA. You can identify them as personally known. If the state does require that they go through a KBA and CA to become a credible witness, that's fine, because they're going to do it. You just price it into your quote. So I don't want to say ways around it, but there are solutions to these answers if your platform has enough real world experience to have instituted that in their architecture.
But if they're being ID'd via credible witness, because the credible witnesses have to go through KBA to vouch for the signer does need to personally know the credible witnesses, because they're vouching for the ID as they are the ones kind of replacing the physical ID. But I think too, like with Florida, they require signature witnesses. And as long as it's, not a blood relative or somebody interested, in the transaction, then that can be anybody.
Right. Again, bone up on your state's bone up on your state's RON rules and notary rules, because that really is going to create an opportunity for you and what you can and can't do. And when you go to that hospital or that law firm or that construction company or that university, you're going to want to know what you're talking about.
Okay, no, thank you for that. That's helpful.
Okay, another issue, particularly in larger documents, does your platform have the ability to read smart tags? Like a DocMagic package will already be tagged for signature, data elements, elections, dates, notary stamp, notary seal. Does your platform read those smart tags? So all you have to do is enter the data signer 1, data signer 2, data signer 3, data signer 4, and it will automatically apply it in the right spot. There's no dragging and dropping tags. That said, your template, your platform should also include templates. If you're doing repeat forms, permission slips for schools, educational statement of purpose for a loan, 1583s, they're forms that you can pre-tag with elements that have their name, their address, city, state, zip, date of birth, initial, data fields. So all you have to do is enter the signer information and it will automatically populate it onto the docs. It's a huge time saver. Also, you want to be able, and this is something that you guys really have to zero in on, is does your platform allow you to create a hybrid environment where some docs are signed electronically, e-signature, and some are signed and notarized? Where the mortgage industry is going to go, and there's some platforms out there like ours and others, honestly, that allow you to do this. Let's say, and again, you may have a disclosure that needs to be signed. Years ago, we used to go out and dispatch notaries to go out and take mortgage applications. No notarization, just a mortgage application, 45 pages. The charge at that time was like $75. In a good platform like ours, you can create a disclosures, 2 people signing, wholesale cost is $1.50. Charge what you want. But 45 pages of disclosures cost you $1.50. So that's where you can make some money. So don't ignore the e-signature aspect of your platform's utility. Okay, let's go on to fees. Does your platform cost you a setup fee? Do they bill you monthly to have access to the platform? Do they require that you buy a plan in advance annually? Or do they charge you a monthly fee, then a per transaction fee? You had mentioned earlier you're going to be charged for a transaction. The KBA, they fail one. The KBA, they fail two. Most all platforms, and I think I can almost say all platforms, us included, if we have to pay for it, you're going to pay for it. So if your client fails a KBA twice, you're going to pay for 2 KBAs. It's the cost of doing business. Next question, does the platform allow you to bill clients separately in advance? Again, our successful notaries, let's say have law firms or hospitals or doctors goes onto their website, orders a signing, and pays in advance. Nice deal. Does the platform allow you to estimate what your exact cost is going to be? Okay, I've got 2 signers. One I personally know, the other is going to have to go through a KBA and CA. There's going to be 1 witness, there's going to be observer, and that's it. What's it going to cost me? Will they calculate that out in advance? The other thing is there a cap on fees? Many platforms, to their credit, ours included, will say, okay, the most is ever going to cost you 2,000 pages, 28 notarizations, 58 signatures is X, $50 or $60. That's the cap on the platform. And will that platform credit you back for any unused elements? Like a no sign. You set up all this stuff and the platform says it's going to cost you $12.50, and your customer calls you up and says, oh, that signer, he's backed out. Just cancel it. Are you going to be charged for that? You shouldn't be. If you haven't caused the signing platform to experience a cost, you shouldn't be experiencing a cost. Finally, will a platform staff assist you in sales presentations? We've had this many times. I had a notary in Arizona. This is a great deal. And if you've got a university in your town, beat it fast to the financial aid office. When a student goes to a college, he goes out there for rush week, where they go and they look at everything and they really decide they want to go to this school. They go to financial aid office and they say, you know what? I need a student loan. And the financial aid officer says, here's the form, go ahead, fill it out. And once you sign it, I'll witness it. And the financial aid officer witnesses. Now, if they take that very same form home to mom and dad, they have to have it signed and they have to have it notarized. A little over 3.5 million of those transactions occur every year. So will the platform staff allow you to bring in one of their experts to consult on a large deal? We have had notaries that have come to us and say, Bill, this is over my head, but I know this guy, he's an attorney at ABC law firm. Can you help me do this? Of course we will. And the notary gets a fee for doing that for every transaction. It's a referral fee, it's common. So are those kind of manipulations available? And I've tried to give examples of platforms outside the mortgage market. The mortgage market has taken a dump. Some of the platforms have been laying off people. I know Notaries laid off 25% of their workforce today. Other platforms have shut some things down. That is why it is critical that you investigate other markets. It's absolutely critical. Get into the medical market. Kaiser Hospital in California, under 5,000, roughly 5,000 transactions a month. We have a contracting firm that does 70,000 transactions a month. A university will usually give you between 1,500 and 2,000 transactions a year for the statement of educational purpose that needs to be signed. Medical offices, attorney offices. So investigate those. You know what all those markets have in common? And that's the door. And you got to walk through it, and you got to knock on it, you got to walk through it. So expand because I've been through, as many of you have, a number of downturns in the mortgage market, starting in '81. And then we had Armageddon in 2007. And now we're down 70%. So you had better diversify your marketplace. Marketing and what to say to who to go, how to approach them, how to write them is an entirely other topic that will take at least another hour to train notaries on how to market their services. How do they make money in the wrong environment? But the first step here is learning to select a platform that's going to be robust enough, offer you the flexibility to approach all markets, has the credibility to stand up against scrutiny, and has the support that will allow you to be successful. With that, questions?
Mr. Bill, I'm just going to start with a statement. I have to say, you know, I know that you own a platform and you're gonna come talk to us next week about that platform. And I really have to say this for everyone that's listening and everyone that watches the replay. This is the most least objective introduction to choosing a RON platform that I've ever seen. And I don't know how I'm gonna feel about your platform next week.
Right, separate
I,
decision.
I spoke with you about this before, and I have to tell you guys, behind the scenes, Bill has never tried to sell me a thing, actually, and we've had a great conversation. I can't tell you how valuable these 37 bullet points are, and we'll post these with what we're gonna, when we post the replay for you guys. I've actually wanted to post it in the chat, but it requires to upload it to Google Drive, and I'm just gonna put it where you guys can download it with it along with the video. But I have to tell you, I appreciate the objectiveness at looking at this industry that you're providing when you also work in the industry as a RON provider. I feel like you are a shining light in a lot of ways. And I have to say that because it's so amazing to me that you bring up these objective points for everyone to look at when you own a platform. You know, you could be pitching it, and we see that here, where, I mean, we're inviting a lot of platforms in and interviewing them, and I've got some favorites, I have no lie. You know, but I'm very excited to see about your platform, and I love this objective view of what you've presented to us today.
Yeah,
We're
well,
going to
I
ask
appreciate
now.
you.
I'm going to ask now if you have questions. Please make sure to raise your hand so we can get you into queue for questions. It's 6:06, and I promised Mr. Bill that we wouldn't treat him like it's a boot camp and keep him here all night like we can do sometimes. I see Miss Amy's got her hand raised. Miss Amy, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. I want to bring up something that I've run into. I am a full-time RON. I do closings all week, every week, except for this week because I'm in Outer Banks, but you know, it is what it is. But I run into situations where title sends me documents last minute. They've absolutely changed everything, and I've got to completely reconfigure it all.
Right.
Previously, in my old platform, I had to pay to change the documents, and that was expensive. Is that something, I don't know if Bill's platform allows for document transition or replacement? Is
Yeah.
that something that someone should be aware of?
Yes, and particularly in the beginning of this market, because we're having meetings with the executives at Alta in about a week regarding promulgating rules for title company submission. They really should break up their packages into two packages: notarized documents and non-notarized documents. The non-notarized documents, you don't even need to be there for them to sign them. They can log in, go through authentication if they want, click sign them, and they're done. And then your session only has the notarized documents. So that takes you from 7 to maybe 12 documents. But to your question, yes, the platform allows you in real time to swap out the documents. Or, as is the case, 15 minutes before the signing, oh, we've got an updated TRID, we've got an updated HUD. You can go in and swap that out. There's no additional charge for that. And to upload, what we do charge is to upload a document, the first 10 documents, and a document is 1 page or 1,000 pages, is $1.50. First 10 and your billing period are free. So, I mean, it's a very reasonable, I mean, I know the numbers in the market, it's very, very, very reasonable. And again, I've done over 2,300 signings myself, managed over 5 million, representing literally all the large title and signing, title companies, mortgage lenders out there. I don't know if anybody signed for Signature Services, the first American company, but I was them for the first 3 years they were in business. They used my platform. So, you know, I see what goes on out there, and we try to accommodate that in the platform.
Awesome, Bill. Thank you. You have another question from Jacqueline. Ms. Green, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Sure. My question is, it relates to renewing your RON certificate or license. First of all, I was disappointed disappointed that the NNA did not give me more guidance. You know, what they told me, I did it, and then I got my application rejected from the state of Florida, sent back. Their main reason was that the RON technology provider was not stated. I answered that question, yes, but I was not sure at the time who I was going to use. So my question
Sure.
is, what weight does that really hold? Because I knew I would be not identify doing this process because I'm not sure who I will be using. And so I just said yes and didn't put anyone. Why do I need any? They're saying that they sent it back with the fee that I needed to put someone on the line. But say I have put secured signings and I decide now to change.
Okay.
What does that mean?
You're just gonna currently they require Florida requires an SD50 form to be submitted to the state, letting them know who you're going to use. And if you will use another platform with many, to be very honest with you, very honest, many of our notaries use 2 or 3 platforms, typically 2. But you just file an addendum, I think it's $5 or $7 that you're going to use an additional platform. And you should, you know, we have all states applications. Many states require that the notaries answer these questions. It's way beyond their abilities. I mean, it's crazy. We have all states applications. So if you're from a state and you don't know how to answer the question, contact us. We'll give you their state's forms with our answers already filled in. And you just put your notary stuff in. That's what I mean by, will the platform assist you in your business development?
Awesome. Love
Thank
your helping hand.
Yeah, I love that.
All righty, we're going to move on to Lisa Contreras. Lisa, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, so Bill, you were showing how your platform calculates the pricing per note, per stamp and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. So when you're presenting that to a customer, is that just for the notary to see so that they know that this is going to be my tech fee and this is going to be my notary fee, and give your client or signer?
No, you can go on our platform right now, and you can go to pricing, to notary plans, and you can watch 100 different videos. You can practice as much as you want. You can look at the cost estimator. You don't even have to sign up. We're extremely transparent. So no, that is your wholesale cost. They don't ever see that. So
Okay.
you go on and you cut your deal with your attorney. So, Mr. Attorney, for these types of services, I'm going to charge you $250. What it costs you is what it costs you. He doesn't need to know that because he's going to bill his client his hourly rate.
All right. So that's not going to the client. That's just going to us. And
Yes,
then
that's just right. That's your wholesale cost. That's, it's like you go into Walmart and you ask the guy at the counter, what does this half-gallon of milk cost you? Yes. Yeah. This is between you and your client.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any more hands raised. Oh, there we go. We have Jamie Smith. Miss Jamie, if you want to ask your question.
Yes, hi. Hi, Bill. I haven't done any RON signings yet. I have a digital certificate, and a signature. But I was wondering, when do you think that more lenders are going to be on board for RON signings? Here in Washington, we don't get very many. So I'm trying to get ahead of the game here,
Yeah, I don't know if, considering I wrote a white paper 17 years ago, I'm probably not the best person to ask, but realistically, 2 things are going to occur in the evolution. One is most big title companies, Stewart, First American, Fidelity, Chicago, have their own platform. As a principal platform, we're an approved platform provider along with them. So that's a great question to ask your title company people. But I think we're going to see a big jump in HELOCs in the next 6 months because of the interest rates marching up and the total amount of trillions of dollars of equity sitting out there to be tapped, and the cost of living going up. People are going to need to access cash because they're even if they got raises, it's beating up by inflation. So that's going to jump up. So I would start promoting out to your title company lenders. You're a HELOC expert. Go out and learn everything you possibly can about a home equity line of credit in seconds, because that's where the market's going. It's not going to turn around for probably at least a year. The adoption I think is going to accelerate as lenders find way of cutting costs and overhead, because their transaction gross volume is going to be down tremendously. So they've got to shore up that expenses with something, and either they got to raise the ceiling in pricing or lower the floor in cost. And Ron is a way to lower the floor in cost. And again, make sure you're marking the e-signature aspect, a missed document, a trailing document, an application that was missed, that you can be their go-to person if they miss something, be it signature or not. If it only needs to be signed, you can turn around the same day. And the other thing is we use a server-side X509 cert for all signer signatures. We use the Federal Bridge for all notaries, but we even use an X509 for Joe Signer when he signs a document. It's another layer of security. I know that probably isn't the best answer, but pursue other markets, phone up on HELOCs, tighten your belt for a year, and promote promote those things that that's going to increase revenue to your business.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just waiting for the day I don't have to print 2 copies of a,
Oh, it's
200 or
crazy.
300 page, reverse mortgage.
Oh yeah, it'll be a while before Heckams come online, I think, because of the demographic. But even you standard refi at 150 pages, that's 300 pages. I mean, even if you approach your lenders and say, hey, how about we just do the signed documents through my platform? And you can show them the platform certifications, that it's secure, it's easy to use. You're going to be there online, maybe as a guest or a host, to assist them in signing. But that's a way of them reducing their costs. So you've got to be able to go to them and tell them how you're going to save them money by using you.
Mr. Bill, I'm going to ask for you to unshare your screen for a moment, because we have a little signature thing that we do here at the end.
Stop share. Okay.
Everybody's going to know what we're talking about. Let me get us to the gallery view here. Let's see, because I think I've got you pinned there. Let's see. Miss Beth, if you know, oh, there we go, gallery view. So Mr. Bill, I want to thank you for being here tonight with us. I want to let everybody know next week Bill's going to be back, okay? He does own a Ron platform. He's going to be presenting that to us as well. So we're going to get to compare what he said to what he owns. And I think that's a wonderful way to start out a conversation. He did for us tonight something that I don't see many people. I don't think this is a sales tactic at all. He did something for us tonight that most people won't do. They'll say, hey, this is what you need to be looking for. This is what I offer. This is going to be an amazing 2 weeks for us on General Mentorship. I feel honored that Bill was here. I want to say this again. I think it's the least objective that we've seen from a presentation, because we've already got presentations lined up and everybody wants to sell their platform, and that's great. This was actually just straightforward. This is what you need to be looking for. And I've been excited about this for a week, actually 2 weeks now, because we've been talking behind the scenes. I'm really excited about it. And of course, guys, we're going to be comparing all Ron platforms out there, but I really appreciate what Mr. Bill put into the conversation tonight. I'd like for you to turn on your cameras and let's show Mr. Bill how we give that signature wave. So wave to Mr. Bill, wave to all the notaries that couldn't make it tonight that will watch this replay. Wave to yourself if you come back and watch it tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
And I appreciate your time, Mr. Bill. And of course, we'll talk before next week, but I want to say thank you so much for this presentation, because
My pleasure.
I think you did. This is worth its weight in gold for us.
Great. I'm glad I could be of help.
Thank you so much.
Take care, guys. I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Next week.
All right. See you next week.